2017 was a sad year for many reasons. But the saddest thing that happened that year was the Great Movie Ride closing. Of course I'm kidding, but it was a sad day when the Great Movie Ride closed, especially for me, because it was my favorite ride. Where is it? Can't even find it. I have a uniform here, and I also have a sign pin right there, but it was my favorite ride in my favorite park. So I think you can feel the devastation there. The Great Movie Ride, where do I even begin? It was such a great ride. You can enter some of the greatest movies ever made, like Wizard of Oz, Alien, Singing in the Rain, Indiana Jones, and scenes that could alternate sometimes depending on the day, like the cowboys and gangster scenes. So I'm celebrating Great Movie Ride today, even though it's not the day it opened or the day it closed. I'm just celebrating it because I like Great Movie Ride. So, I'm Dane, and today we're going over the history of the greatest movie ride. Or Great Movie Ride. I came up with that on the spot. Hopefully it was a good joke.
Welcome aboard. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to please remain seated throughout the show, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, and don't forget to supervise your children. Also, for the safety of our cast, we ask that you please refrain from the use of flash photography and external video lighting. Now we've taken care of business, let's talk about me. My name is Taylor, and I will be your guide for this magical journey into the movies. It's the perfect job for me because I love movies. Is everybody ready? Great, because the cameras are ready to roll. Ready when you are, CB. And we are rolling.
Many thanks to Taylor Hound. I'll link his channel in the description below. He has some great movie ride POVs. And he used to be an actual guide on Great Movie Ride. So thanks for giving us that great intro. Great Movie Ride originally started out as a concept for a pavilion in Epcot, since that was the second park open back then. The pavilion would have 3 parts: movies, TV, and radio. I think I would have liked this pavilion because I like movies, TV, and radio. Actually, I would have loved this pavilion because it's literally the exact same thing as MGM Studios, just smaller. Anyway, during the concept phase, a new CEO was taking an interest in this new pavilion, and he thought it had potential, and he was right. Over at Paramount, its CEO has just left, and they needed a new one. Michael Eisner was next in line, but he decided to pass over the job, just like any next in line CEO would. I mean, I would. That's not a stupid decision at all. Luckily, it did play out for him because Disney was also looking for a new CEO, and Eisner was the perfect, that's not the chef's kiss, the perfect fit. When he found out about the TV and movie idea, he thought it was such a strong idea that it needed to be not just a ride, not just a pavilion, but an entire new theme park. The park would look back at the glory days of Hollywood, and in the middle of the park would be a 1-to-1 scale of recreation of Grauman's Chinese theater, except it would be called just Chinese theater because Grauman's didn't give Disney permission to use the name Grauman's, so it's just called the Chinese theater. The outside might look the exact same as the real theater, but inside doesn't, because inside lies the Great Movie Ride. Let's take a ride before we continue the history, shall we? The first movie we enter is Footlight Parade and the famous human waterfall scene. The platform these animatronics used to stand on used to move, but the sprinklers would flood the track and were turned off in a couple years after opening, because you really can't have your attraction flooding every day. Next is Singing in the Rain with the famous Gene Kelly rain scene. You know, the one where he's like with the umbrella and he has the pole, he's like dancing? Put it up on the screen. There we go, that one. Then Mary Poppins and Bert started singing Chim Chimmery in the Mary Poppins scene. Now is one of the two scenes that are different. You can either stop at the gangster scene or the cowboy western scene. But lucky for you, we're gonna stop at both, which would never happen in real life. But since this is a history of Great Movie Ride, we kinda have to stop at both. In the gangster scene, a gangster would come out with a gun, not a real gun, because you can't have guns. I'm surprised that they even had this scene in MGM Studios, or Hollywood Studios, because you're not allowed to bring even a Nerf gun in. I've had experience with that. Don't get me started on it. He forces your guide to give you the ride vehicle to him. In the Western version, there is a shootout and the bank is lit on fire. Then the cowboy takes over. I've experienced the Western scene, which is pretty rare, and I must have encountered the gangster scene. I can't remember right now, but I must have, because I have pictures of the Western scene, but I don't have pictures of the gangster. But I remember the gangster, so I saw both. The Western scene was only used for busy days or if someone requested the scene. Now it's time for Alien, one of the scariest scenes back when GMR was open. It was this scene. Just look, hold on, let me pause it. Look at that alien animatronic. You can't tell me that's not terrifying. Next is Indiana Jones and the cowboy or gangster, depending on which version you get, gets a little adventurous and decides to steal the jewel, but this jewel is cursed and he ends up dying. And your actual tour guide reappears, but don't feel bad for the cowboy or gangster, because he did steal your ride vehicle, so he's the villain. This tour's getting a little long, so let's speed it up. Come on, we have history to do. Tarzan swings by in the next scene, welcoming you to the Tarzan section. The next is Casablanca. That plane is not actually the real Casablanca plane, because there was no real plane used in the movie, but the second half of that plane is still used in the Jungle Cruise today. Next is the Twister scene. Fantasia, sorry. Sorcerer Mickey in Fantasia. It was supposed to be the Twister scene, because now you're in the Wizard of Oz, and this scene never disappointed, because of the awesome audio animatronic witch. That audio animatronic witch was awesome every single time to see. And at the time, when it opened up in 1989, it was the most complex audio animatronic ever. It's still amazing today. And it's rumored to be the Jane animatronic in Pirates of the Caribbean, which Jane's face looks a lot like, or not Jane, sorry, the redhead in Pirates of the Caribbean, not Jane. Jane in Great Movie Ride, face mold is rumored to be the redhead in Pirates of the Caribbean. So, two things from Great Movie Ride is rumored to be in the Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, the face probably is, at least the same mold, because it looks exactly the same as the animatronic in Great Movie Ride. And the witch, I wouldn't be surprised if they moved it in there, because I don't think you scrap a A100 audio animatronic like that, especially with that historic significance. Now our journey through the movies is over. The only thing that's left is a little montage of movies, but since I can't really explain that, our journey is over. Back to history. The Great Movie Ride was one of two opening day rides in Hollywood Studios, and it is kind of a shame that both are now gone. The second one was Studio Backlot Tour, but Backlot Tour we got rid of because of Galaxy's Edge, so I think that's a fair trade. But Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, which I haven't seen yet, is in the Chinese theater now, so I can't make an opinion on it, but it looks good. But I will always love Great Movie Ride. When GMR first opened, it was sponsored by Coke, and it was sponsored for almost 10 years, 1989 to 1998. But in 1998, Coke ended their sponsorship, and Great Movie Ride went sponsorless until 2015, when Turner Classic Movies, or TCM for short, picked up the sponsorship. That was a pretty big deal, because the actual ride changed because of the sponsorship. Now, the little things is that there was a new Turner Classic Movies logo on the attraction sign, but there was a Coke sign before that, so that's little. And there were new Magic posters that moved. There were posters, like movie posters, that moved. But the biggest thing is that there was new narration on the ride by Robert Osborne. And they pretty much got rid of the guides, except for the scenes with the cowboys and the gangsters. But other than that, the guides didn't really do anything. They just stood there awkwardly. So why would you do that? Most people think the new narration is what killed Great Movie Ride. I can't really agree with them because I didn't see it before the new narration. But it is kind of weird to have a guide doing nothing. That would just be like putting narration in the Jungle Cruise, which the skippers in the Jungle Cruise add something to the ride. Same thing with Great Movie Ride. At least the videos that I saw, because I've never seen it without the narrations. Great Movie Ride was only open for 2 more years after that, because in 2017, it was announced that Great Movie Ride would close in August of that same year. And the last ride ever happened. And all the tour guides, the present tour guides, would come out to the exit and give one final bow. But in 2020, March of this year, Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway opened in the same building. And to be honest with you, I haven't rode the ride yet, but all the POVs I've seen, it looks good, but like I said before, there was just a charm about Great Movie Ride, and I don't think that can be matched. Because there was something with the guides. There was something neat and cool about having that human-to-human interaction on the ride, and it can't be replaced. I will always love Great Movie Ride. It will always be my favorite in Hollywood studios. Well, now that I've said that, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully you've learned something. Let me know down in the comments if you did learn something. And also, while you're down there, hit that like button and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me if you did so. Now that that's all said, I will see you in the next one. Have a magical day, everybody.